Yo, welcome back to another Pokemon Scarlet Violet VGC video. I'm your host, Jose Rocks, and today we're going to be getting to pretty much a breakdown of what I feel like Incineroar is going to do in a new format, and can it fix VGC. So Incineroar is historically known as being one of the best Pokemon in the game ever, as far as a balanced mon that's stoppable onto any team that's usually available in any format, right? Of course, unless it's not in a game, it's usually not one of the ones that's banned unless we have like some type of ban list, but it's not a restricted, right? So of course, if you want to consider restricted, it's like one of those being the best Pokemon, that's usually because they're, a legendary. But as far as just like a regular Pokemon that's, like I said, available in most regulations or series, it's going to be Incineroar, right? It's the most stoppable Pokemon on any team. Any team can literally just get better just by having Incineroar and having that defensive synergy. If you have a hyper offense team, you could throw Incineroar on there just to give it a little defensive backbone. If you have a hard Trick Room team, throw Incineroar over there on your team to help you get Trick Room up with like Fake Out and Parting Shot to position like your sweepers. If you have a balanced team, Incineroar is a fire type, so it rounds out a Fire, Water, Grass core. You get what I'm saying? If you need a Pokemon that's immune to like Prankster, Taunt, and things like that, and can be disruptive, Incineroar is your guy. If you need something that can deal damage to like, Steel types, which is one of the best defensive types in the game, or if you need something to hit Ghost types, which are usually pretty hard to hit with some things like normal and fighting types, Incineroar is your guy. And Incineroar is just, it's such a good Pokemon, and a lot of people were kind of like, due to like how prominent it was in Sword and Shield, and of course I didn't play Gen 7, but I heard that it was really good in Gen 7 once it got its hitting ability Intimidate, that it kind of rubbed people the wrong way. But in my opinion, I think that it's very good for like balance of the game, and it keeps a lot of like the meta Pokemon in check. And if you just think back to Sword and Shield, we had Zacian, right? Zacian was an incredible Pokemon. This got nerfed now to 150 base attack, but this thing was 170 base attack with an ability that gets +1 when it switches in every single time. Not once per battle, because that's also the nerf. It was every single time, so you could switch it out, switch it back in, and get that +1 again, right? Incineroar was the only thing that was keeping this thing from completely like storming through the game and making the game unplayable at some point, right? If we didn't have Incineroar, there would be no way to really just deal with Zacian properly. Landorus, while Landorus was in the game too, it can intimidate Zacian. Zacian still just does so much damage to it with Behemoth Blade because it doesn't resist it. Incineroar intimidates Zacian and it resists the Behemoth Blade, and it for one turn it makes Zacian play passive with Fake Out, right? In case you got a threat that's able to deal good damage to Zacian, Zacian has to protect in front of Incineroar, right? Which is really good in front of like if you try to go for like a Incineroar like Urshifu lead and dealing good damage to Zacian, or getting something set up in front of Zacian so that it can outspeed Zacian the next turn. Because Zacian is also, with base 148 speed, is one of the fastest Pokemon in the game. Has decent, respectable bulk. Like, this is 115, 92. Like, that's going to be so good when it comes back. Like, this is Pokemon, and this is a nerfed Zacian, and it still has these great stats. Like, it's bulky, it's fast, and it can hit on the physical side. And, like, if you wanted to just randomly, like, run, like, a special coverage move, you could, because base 80 is still not that bad. I mean, it's his worst stat, but that's not even... Some Pokemon can't even get above 80. Like, Whimsicott is base 77. So this thing has a higher special attack than Whimsicott, and that's a special attacker. So it's like, this thing can do everything. Of course, you would always want to run it physical, but just, saying that, like, none of its stats are bad. And that's typical of, like, a legendary, but this thing is, like, completely, like, broken. And I feel like Incineroar was the only thing that kept this Pokemon in check. Right, and Incineroar also can burn it too. It can eat a Behemoth Blade. Zacian was typical of running. This was one of the main sets: Behemoth Blade, Sacred Sword, and they would either run Play Rough or Substitute. Right, Incineroar stops the Substitute with Fake Out, and then of course Protect. And Incineroar threatened it with a Will-O-Wisp. You could threaten it with a Flare Blitz. It only took about, I believe it was about this much investment. I think it was like 116 investment or 120. Of course, he had to have Flare Blitz. And then you go Adamant Nature. Yeah, it was about 116. And this was able to pretty much pick up non-bulky Zacian, right? And now if you wanted to just go max attack, you're able to still pick up Zacian, especially with the sun up. But with no bulk like max, this was to count like a 252 Zacian, which some of those were actually common until like the end of the meta when people start using like bulkier Zacian. It's kind of like how they did Fluttermane. Fluttermane in Series 2 started off, in Regulation B, started off really fast and hard hitting, and then as the format progressed and we got into Regulation C, Regulation D, people start running bulky Fluttermane. Zacian was similar to that, right? You know, with very fast, very hard hitting, and then to make it to take a little bit more hits, they start to drop the attack investment, drop a little bit of speed to outspeed just what it needed to, like things like Tornadus and Thunderous, and invest into the bulk. So Zacian is currently not in the game right now, but it will eventually come back. And it's gonna still be strong with like Steel Terror, Behemoth Blade, right? But Incineroar is one of the reasons why we were able to survive that period that Zacian was in the game, especially some of the other restrictors like Zekrom. Incineroar was able to intimidate that. Of course, Kyogre just obliterated Incineroar, right? But Groudon was able to intimidate that, so the Precipice Blaze wasn't hitting as hard. And just a lot of the physical restrictors, Incineroar kind of shut them down, like Giratina, completely invalidated by Incineroar, right? And that's just how good it is. And now in this current format, we have things like, of course, the main archetype that's annoying is pretty much Tornadus Urshifu. Let me put Incin back up here. So it's pretty much Tornadus Urshifu, right? And while Incineroar does not stop this lead, he can fake it out and allow his partner to do something into this. And Urshifu is also a really good counter to Incineroar, but now that we have Terra, Incineroar can get around there, right? And now you can just go for like Water Terra, and could be a counter into it, because Tornadus is never gonna taunt you because you're Dark type. You can go Water Terra with Will-O-Wisp, right? You don't even have to fake out, or you can just fake it out, and then the next turn, after the Pokemon next Incineroar does like a setup move or something to position itself well into this, you just go for Water Terror and Will-O-Wisp the Urshifu, right? And then you're in a good spot from there, because even with the rain up, once this thing is burnt, those critical hits are not doing any damage like that, and that's the only way to really slow down the Urshifus from their critical hit damage, right? Because anything else, they can crit through screens, they can crit through Intimidate. So, and then also your Intimidate reduces the close combat damage or anything else that Urshifu wants to go for. So, while it's not a counter to Tornadus Urshifu, it does help you even though it is weak to Urshifu, right? It just depends on the set that you're running. But if you want to think of things that have been pretty oppressive, let's think of Chien-Pao, right? Chien-Pao, while it can run Sacred Sword similar to Zacian, like you said, Incineroar can eat a Sacred Sword from Zacian. It can definitely eat a Sacred Sword from Chien-Pao, which Chien-Pao's ability does, give it like a similar damage output to like the current Zacian is going to do. But the old Zacian was still a lot more powerful this, and we were able to eat a Sacred Sword with a Citrus Berry and be able to get it to like where it's a 3-hit KO, where it does about 50% to you. The Citrus Berry gets you back over half, and then it has to hit you 2 more times Sacred Sword to kill you, right? And in that time, unless you go for like, if you can go for knockoff to remove this Focus Sash, and then go for Flare Blitz, and now you're able to 1v1 Chien-Pao, which is one of the most powerful Pokemon in the game right now, right, in the format. And then let's think about Fluttermane. So Fluttermane is also something that's not gonna like Incineroar, right? So in order to deal with Fluttermane, this is another set that's gonna be running around. It's gonna be AV Incineroar, right? And now with AV, of course, you can't have Will-O-Wisp. You can put Snarl on this set, right? And of course, Fake Out. And of course, you're gonna be Intimidate, right? And now you're able to, without even tearing, because Fluttermane can't hit you with Shadow Ball, Moonblast is going to be neutral. That's going to bounce right off of you with 90 base defense, and you invest into your special defense within Assault Vest, and 95, base HP. Now you're going to be able to Snarl and eat those Moonblasts and allow something in the back to come in and easily pick off Fluttermane, which is usually very frail, right? While it's not it's not a complete check to Fluttermane, it does slow down the damage output depending on what Incineroar set you're running. And even if you're running the Citrus Berry, you can still pretty much eat a Moonblast. It's never going to one-shot you, even with Fairy Terror, if you invest into special defense. And then instead of Snarl, you can run like Parting Shot, and Parting Shot the Fluttermane and get something in that does well into it. Another Pokemon, Chi-Yu. Now, while I feel like Chi-Yu is not going to be invalidated due to Incineroar, because Incineroar is a support and physical, Chiyus are offensive and special, right? Even though they're the same typing, they play two different roles. You might even see some teams that have both of these, right? Even though they're the exact same typing, they play completely different. Chiyu is meant to make your team more offensive, and Incineroar is meant to give your team more of a defensive backbone. And it has Fake Out. This is more so of an offensive Choice Scarf, Focus Sash type Pokemon, right? And Chiyu, while it's not going to be invalidated due to Incineroar does check this thing, right? Now, of course, either one of you can hit each other for super effective damage or even neutral damage. But the trade favors Incineroar, right? Because you can go for Flare Blitz, which is 120 base power, onto Chiyu's 80 base defense, which is his weaker defense. And 55 HP, that means you're dealing more damage to it than what it's going to be able to deal to you with your defensive special defense nature, right? So if you are both trading Heat Waves and Flare Blitzes, while you are taking Chip, you're doing more damage overall, and Chiyu has a chance to miss. And while it can go for Dark Pulse, which is 80 base power, can flinch you, now they're doing even less damage, and you're going to always win that 1v1 trade out between these two, right? At least in my opinion, unless Chiyu's like running a Life Orb and gets like a lot of Heat Wave hits on you, for the most part, you're going to win that trade-off, right? And now Chiyu can't safely just sweep your team because it's Incineroar existing, right? Now let's think about some Pokemon that I feel like Incineroar is gonna validate. We can start with Gholdengo. While Gholdengo may still come to a couple of teams, I think that how good Gholdengo's been, like Incineroar is literally like a perfect check to it, right? You think of Make It Rain, what makes it so good is that it hits both targets and is 120 base power, plus like the combo of Shadow Ball and Nasty Plot. Now with Incineroar, you're able to soak up those nasty plotted Make It Rains and threaten to knock off back to Gholdengo to get rid of his like Citrus Berry or his Life Orb or anything. Like if it's like a bulkier one or a Life Orb one, whatever it's doing to give it some longevity as leftovers, you're able to knock that item off and it forces it to tear into Dragon. And if it tears into Dragon, now you're able to, combo this with any other neutral hitting Mon. And when Gholdengo can't successfully heal itself with Protects, like Protects don't matter because you can't really heal yourself back up, and Leftovers is like the most common with this set. Now because you knock that off and they tear it, you're able to remove Gholdengo a little bit easier, right? And then of course you can't Parting Shot Gholdengo, but Knockoff and Flare Blitz is doing decent chip, and all it's doing is dropping a special attack with Making Rains and not doing that much damage to Incineroar. Assault Vest Incineroar completely walls this set because then you can just Snarl plus to eat the hit with Assault Vest, right? So Assault Vest Incineroar, which we can also put that up here, it's just going to be a really good set. And a lot of people are probably not going to start off running this, but they're going to transition to it because they're going to realize how good it is into like the special attacking side of the format. And I think that the Citrus Berry is perfect for the physical side of the format, right? Flare Blitz, Knockoff, and Parting Shot, right? And this pretty much is gonna stump. No, sorry about that. This is the Assault Vest one, so Snarl. So this is pretty much gonna stump the Gholdengo set. And if you really want, you don't have to run Knockoff. You can run something else like a coverage move. Since you have the Assault Vest, you already have the Dark type and Snarl. And Snarl is doing decent chip to Gholdengo, even though it's a special attack and you're a physical attacker, right? So Gholdengo's pretty much walled. Next is gonna be Armarouge. Armarouge can't side spam Incineroar. Incineroar can Snarl this and Indeedee, get around the Follow Me and just reduce these things damage to where they're not doing anything, right? It can't hit you with a Heat Wave, right? It can't hit you. Well, it can hit you, but it's not gonna do much damage. It can hit you with an Armor Cannon, but all it's doing is dropping its defenses and allowing Knockoff to continue to do more. Even after you knock off its item, Knockoff is still a 60 base power that's gonna be doubled to 120, and still doing decent damage to Armarouge because it's super effective, right? So in that set, you're still 120 base power move that's doing a lot of damage after it removes the initial item. And honestly, if they don't Terra this, or if you knock off the Indeedee first, Armarouge is still going to be in trouble. It can't click its expanding force spam because you're immune to it, right? Another Pokemon I believe is going to be invalidated is going to be Ogerpon. And Ogerpon, while it is a lot similar to Zacian, where it gets the +1 was when it Terras with this ability, its main two stabs, Fire and Grass, are unable to hit Incineroar. At least Zacian was able to still hit Incineroar with Play Rough neutrally. But this is just completely walled. And if you try to run play rough on this, that's non-stab. That's not doing any damage when you're intimidated, right? You can run Stumping Tantrum, but this is not non-stab and it's 75 base power. While it will hit Incineroar super effectively while you're at -1, the Citrus Berry is just going to allow Incineroar to win that trade-off and parting shot you, then come back in and intimidate you. And immediately you're going to see yourself at -3, right? So that's going to be why this mon kind of going to fall off with the surge of Incineroar on every team, because of how easily like it soft checks Ogerpon without even like being put on the team to counter Ogerpon, right? And that's the thing about Incineroar. It's usually not really put on someone's team to completely counter stuff, except like Psy Spam. It's put on the team to be a defensive backbone, and it passively counters like a lot of the meta, and that's why this Pokemon is just so good, right? So good. Another Pokemon that was really dominant in Regulation E, they're literally run every tournament except the last one, was Arcanine. Hisuian Arcanine. And now, while Incineroar can't beat this 1v1, because even if you intimidate it, you have to like get multiple intimidates off the rock coverage with Choice Band, it's still going to be doing so much damage to Incineroar to the point where it's not going to be able to take many of those, right? And while it does help you check Incineroar, the nature of it, because it's Hisuian Arcanine, its role that it usually played was a bulky intimidator that can come in and deal like offense. Now it plays a different role for Incineroar, but as far as like being that intimidator on the team, that was similar, right? I feel like if you really want a defensive backbone, instead of having something that's 4 times weak, have something that has a lot better defensive coverage. And Incineroar has the dark typing, which I would argue is a better typing than rock, and it also carries fake out and parting shot. Now Arcanine always had to hard switch out, and Incineroar doesn't have to do that, and Incineroar can safely get things in with the parting shot and the Citrus Berry, and it doesn't have to be threatened by a 4 times super effective damage like Arcanine is with the water and the ground type moves. And while Incineroar, Arcanine is still going to be really good, I just think that people are going to decide to just go with Incineroar because Incineroar is a little bit more consistent. And while Arcanine has shown that it's able to win regionals, it always had the fear of getting one shot by a random coverage move, especially on ladder. Arcanine is a lot better in open team sheet where you can see if your opponents have those random water or ground type moves. In closed team sheet, like Arcanine can literally just be removed from the field accidentally just by being surprised with, one of those water or ground type attacks. So I think that Incineroar is gonna make this thing kind of fall off in usage. I'm not saying that it's gonna be walled by Incineroar or be bad. It's that Incineroar is just a little bit safer pick than Arcanine, right? Especially for closed ladder. Incineroar is the king of closed ladder because it allows you to bypass a couple turns of cheese, right? And Arcanine can't really do that. And next, if you want to look at just fake out users, I do believe Iron Hands is still going to be good just because of the nature of what Iron Hands does. But other new mons that are coming into the format like Hitmontop, like you're not really going to run Hitmontop over Incineroar. You're not going to run Mienshao. Let's just look at the fake out users. You're not going to run Hariyama. You're not going to run Blastoise. Grimmsnarl usually is still going to run Screams. A lot of teams found success in Sword and Shield by running Grimmsnarl plus Incineroar. You can't Prankster do anything to these mons, and they're able to freely set up Reflect and get off like Intimidates and stuff like that against you, which is very strong in a format where just dealing chip damage and be able to come in with your sweepers in the back is really valuable. So Grimm is going to be a great partner for Incineroar, and it almost is never going to run fake out anymore when it plays with Incineroar, right? Because Incineroar does that. I hate to say it, Infernape is my favorite Pokemon, but you're not going to use Infernape fire type fake out over Incineroar, right? Incineroar is just too bulky, too valuable. You're not going to use Mienshao. Of course, you're not going to use this Persian. Persian, while it is a good Pokemon, I feel like it missed its chance already early on in Scarlet and Violet to be like that fake out dark type, right? And Incineroar is here now. Of course, you're going to still use Rillaboom because Rillaboom is a perfect teammate for Incineroar, and with double fake out and them being grass and fire typing, they balance out, the fire water grass core. You're not going to use Palmont. Shiftry is going to run a different role. You're not going to use Tinkaton. Tinkaton just gets done in by Incineroar, right? And Sneasler plays like a different role. So in Scrafty, you're not going to use that. Incineroar is just a better dark type. So of course you might see occasional Gothitelle, but Gothitelle is really falling off with Urshifu being able to break protects. If they ever ban Urshifu, you're gonna see Gothitelle. But other than that, like Incineroar is gonna be your prime suspect for like fake out users. Now, like I said, Rillaboom and Iron Hands, I believe Iron Hands might fall off a little bit in usage, as far as it's still going to be used, but it's not going to be as slappable because people are going to choose to go with Incineroar instead of Iron Hands, which are going to play kind of a similar role. I still think Iron Hands is going to be good. Of course, it's not going to like going against Incineroar and getting intimidated, but you do win the 1v1 against Incineroar with Drain Punch, right? You're going to eventually outlive the Flare Blitz, and they can't really hit you with knockoff, right? And even if it does knock you off, knocking off an Assault Vest is not valuable for Incineroar. Incineroar does beat Rillaboom pretty much 1v1 with the Flare Blitz, unless you Terra and go for high horsepower. Other than that, but of course, Incineroar could Terra in the grass too, and it's kind of like a neutral matchup, right? But these two are going to be other fake out users. I feel like you're going to see Incineroar on teams with these two, and it's funny if you see all three of them on the team. You have a triple physical. And triple fake out, right? And then all you need to do is like run like maybe 2 special attackers and another offensive physical attacker that maybe you can set up, and now you have like triple fake out, which can also be pretty valuable to some teams. But this is pretty much, you know, my opinion on Incineroar. I do think that it is time for it to come. I do want to get into a couple of Incineroar sets before we get out of here this video. So Incineroar, another Incineroar set. We can go ahead and clear out some of these Pokemon too. And just get the Incineroar sets. Alright, so we have the Citrus Berry Parting Shot. This is going to be probably the most standard. We have the Assault Vest. I think Dragon Terror is the best one on the Assault Vest one. Allowing you to take a lot of hits from like water types. People might assume that you're Water Terror, so now you resist the grass, you resist electric, you resist fire. Like, it's just really good with the Dragon typing with the Assault Vest, right? And you don't have to Terra in front of Flutter Mane with your Assault Vest, so that's pretty valuable. Another Incineroar set is going to be the Safety Goggles set. Now, this is the Among Us counter set. So this one is going to be Intimidate, and I like to think that it's going to be Fake Out, Safety Goggles, Flare Blitz, of course. You always run Flare Blitz. You could run Temper Flare. We'll go with another set with Temper Flare. Knock Off. Or you can go like Helping Hand and Parting Shot. Right? You can go Parting Shot, or you can go Taunt, so you can taunt Among Us. But this is gonna be like the Among Us counter set, and I would say probably Water Terror on this as well. Right? And this is a pretty good set to help you deal with Among Us and counter Among Us and be into a lot of different mods in the format. Another Incineroar set, if we want to try the Temper Flare set. Intimidate, you can go Citrus Berry, so that way you have a lot of longevity to keep clicking Temper Flare. And now this is like 150 base power if they protect in front of Incineroar. Still kind of fake out. And if you go like max attack with this, Incineroar is threatening a lot of damage with the fire type damage, right? And then you could go with Darkest Lariat. I think Knockoff is going to be always, you know, recommended. Knockoff, and of course Parting Shot. And this is another set that you can run with a lot of new tools that Incineroar has. If you want to go Helping Hand, it's another. Now this set utilizes all Incineroar's new tools, right? And then of course you can go like a Grass Terror on this, just to get around like Among Us type stuff on the Trick Room. And this is a very good set. This is something that a lot of people are going to be trying out. You're going to see these different Incineroar sets. Incineroar is a Pokemon that has so many different sets. If we just look at Incineroar's like coverage move set, as far as status moves, Helping Hand. If you want to get real spicy and run a bulk up set, in Sword and Shield, I saw people run a special type Incineroar with like Overheat, with which is a funny set. I want to actually show that set. This was actually a real thing in the restricted meta, Series 10. You will have Snarl. Sorry about that. Snarl. And you would also have Parting Shot. Intimidate. And then you would have, was it Jetpack? No. A Jetpack, yeah. So you would go for like Powerful Overheat, which is able to pick up Zacian, right? With max special attack. And then you get switched out immediately with your Jetpack, so you can come back in with more Fake Out and another Overheat or a Parting Shot, right? and it was a very pivoty. Of course, we didn't have Terra, but now if you use this set, I would say go like, if you want to be, let's see, what's Overheat going to be good into? Like a lot of things that are weak to fire. I think Fairy Terra would be good on this one. Your natural type and resist steel. Poison is going to be neutral to you initially. People don't usually go for poison type moves in Incineroar because it's just too bulky, right? So I feel like this would be another good set, right, for Incineroar, and that you can explore, which gets around the Intimidate, and also being able to pivot out with and hit things with Overheat and instantly reset your special attack drop is really valuable. And you can also just go like knockoff and go like a mix set. That way, because we didn't have knockoff in Sword and Shield, that's why people went with the Snarl. But you can just go knockoff, right? And now you're able to knock off things, Overheat, and you're really disruptive. Like, this is a really cool Incineroar set. This is also something that I might try. But like I said, before we end it, let's go through the Incineroar support set. So we're gonna start with his physical attack. So his physical attacks, close combat. Now you're able to hit Heatran, right? Which can usually do well into Incineroar. You're able to hit it. Earthquake, right? You might not want to run that. You might just run Stumping Tantrum. I think it's a little bit better. If you want to play on a rain team, I would suggest like going knock off his Stumpy Tantrum. Now you're able to hit like a different things in the format, right? Of course, Flare Blitz. You really won't need Flame Charge. You don't need the speed. Lash Out in case you get intimidated and you just want to deal 150 base power dark type attack, then you can use Lash Out, right? And of course, like you have Stumpy Tantrum, Temper Flare, Throat Chop to stop other Incineroar from from swapping around with Parting Shot. This was very valuable. This is very valuable into the other Incineroar and Sword and Shield, where they would try to intimidate you and Parting Shot something out. This prevented them from being able to Parting Shot out and kind of wasted a turn. They had to hard swap. And I forgot about U-Turn. So U-Turn is also going to be something you see on the Assault Vest sets, right? Assault Vest. Yeah, some people are usually, I would say drop knockoff, because you're going to want that Snarl and have U-Turn, just so you have some type of damaging move that allows you to pivot, right? And that's kind of the idea behind that type of Incineroar set. So, and we didn't finish looking at his physical attacks. You're pretty much not going to use any of these. Yeah, I never really see any of these used at all. Incineroar does have a special toolkit, which I explained, which was like Overheat. We also get Heat Wave, Scorching Sands, and of course Snarl, which is going to be the main thing. Burning Jealousy was really good into a Dynamax format, where, you know, if you didn't play Dynamax format, every time you Dynamax and use a move that was boosted by Dynamax power, it boosted your side of the field, or it dropped something, the stats on the other side of the field, right? So in a meta where like Airstream was like one of the most common not physical, but one of the common offensive Dynamax moves, like Landorus likes to go for Airstream, but coming off Fly, like using Burning Jealousy was able to like burn these threats that were able to like go for those boosting moves, right? You're almost guaranteed to get the burn. So that's pretty much why people were using Burning Jealousy. Of course, Fire Spin was able to trap some things, but it's never really been that consistent. But last but not least, Incineroar's special kit. Now, Bulk Up, like I said, could be good. Helping Hand, Parting Shot is going to be like on 99% of Incineroar's. Protect, now, wow, well, he haven't even showed a Protect set. Protect was so good on Incineroar because Incineroar has so many moves, it's hard to fit Protect on it. So with that being said, most people feel like it is safe to double up into Incineroar sometimes to try to remove from the field. Having Protect is going to be so valuable on closed team ladder, because now you can't just go into that Incineroar. Like running, if you're able to not have knockoff, you can run Fake Out, Flare Blitz, Parting Shot, and Protect. Now your Incineroar is supportive, and with just having Protect alone is going to give your Incineroar so much value. If you're able to, like, you know, not get locked into having 4 move syndrome, and able to get that Protect onto your value on your Incineroar set, it's going to work out for you in so many different ways. It's going to be very good for you. Roar is something that's good for stopping Trick Room setup. You won't see it that much, but you will see it eventually. Just won't be that common. Substitute. Incineroar is really not that fast, so Substitute really is valuable on fast type Pokemon. Like Pokemon that use Substitute the best are things like Calyrex Ghost, the Fusion, of course, with the horse. Zacian, because it's very fast, and now Landorus Eye, because it's still fast. And when you're able to get off fast Substitute, it makes it, you know, very valuable to use that. It's not really good on a slow mon. Swords Dance, I would say bulk up is a little bit better, but if you want to run offensive Incineroar, you can. You're gonna see taunt Incineroar. It's gonna taunt some things. It's gonna stop trick room setups. It's gonna stop your moves from sporing. Will-O-Wisp is gonna be on Incineroar. It's gonna be burning your Pokemon, you know, slowing them down from what they can do, right? Like Incineroar just has so many different sets, and it's gonna be so fun to explore all of them. Even Growl could be something that you can use, right? These are mostly like not used, but like it just has such a good toolkit. And to my point, in my opinion, this is a 10 out of 10 Pokemon. It's gonna make every team better. It's gonna help balance out the meta. It's gonna stop some of this super hyper offense and slow some of that stuff down just a little bit and allow you to play a little bit more balanced, right? It's gonna bring that defensive core to the format that we've been missing for a long time. That Incineroar can do that Hisuian Arcanine wasn't necessarily able to give us. That Iron Hands wasn't necessarily able to give us, right? Intimidate plus Fake Out plus Parting Shot plus Helping Hand plus Knockoff just plus Taunt plus Will-O-Wisp. It's so good, like, and I'm just happy to have it back. This Pokemon doesn't bother me because I know that it brings balance, right? And you need certain things to keep. If you think the format was a little bit too offensive, then you're gonna welcome Incineroar because it's gonna slow down some of that hyper offense. But that's gonna be it for this video. If you like this type of content, you know, leave a like for me, subscribe, turn on post notifications, because we post this type of Pokemon content every day. Sometimes, you know, I do these discussion videos. Sometimes I do more primarily battles, and I'm gonna be showcasing a lot of Incineroar in this next format, right? Because, you know, it's so easy to slap on teams, and it's gonna like make some of these teams that are kind of like broken or missing pieces like just come together. But like I said, leave a like for me, subscribe, turn on post notifications, and I will catch you guys in the next one. All right, deuces.